I worked with Greer Martin, a veteran, also from Wake County, to make sure that we provided what we could through the state of North Carolina. As you heard, I voted to pass the PACT Act, the largest expansion of veterans benefits in a generation. The bill ensures that you will have coverage for issues related to toxic exposure during your service. And I'm just here to tell you, I think it's a sin that this country didn't recognize this and do the right thing before Congress passed a law. When people serve our country, if the country does wrong, we must take care of our people. So, thank you. So as I just said, the legislation was long overdue, and we're still fighting to make sure veterans receive the care they earn. Last month, it became necessary for me to introduce a bipartisan bill to make sure that folks from Camp Lejeune got the resources that they need. And the federal government, both administrations, this is bipartisan sin here, tried to keep veterans and families from Camp Lejeune from getting the resources that they were due. We have now introduced a bill that we think cleans everything up. There's more than one court you can go to. There will be 6 courts. You'll be able to get a jury trial, and you'll know what percentage of your claim will go to attorney's fees. And it'll be smaller if you settle, not that we're telling you to settle, but it will be smaller if you settle and you want to do it quickly because you're real sick. But we know we will cap it for if you go to trial, because we know that some people have had problems when they go to trial and then they get the award and so much of it is attorney's fees. So this lays it all out so veterans know exactly what the process is. We have finally gotten bipartisan support for it and support in the Senate, and I am hopeful, who knows what we're going to do when we go back in September, but I'm hopeful that this will be one of the things that we can get done. Also, I want you to know, if you haven't been there, last week I attended the opening ceremony of the new VA outpatient clinic near Garner. Who's been there? Well, you need to go. This place is amazing. It's very near White Oak, easy to get to. Obviously, the major surgeries are not happening there, but they have regular wellness checks. They have prosthetics, they have audiologists, they have some of the most sophisticated TBI assessments in the entire country.
Wow.
There. They're bringing in 400 healthcare professionals, some of the best. It is state of the art. And the other thing that's so great about it is it has all these open spaces. So you don't just have to go there to get your medical care. You can go there and have dinner. And they have a coffee shop. And they have free parking. And you don't have to drive to Durham. So go check it out. It was amazing, and it is open. It is completely open to you. It is going to provide 25,000 veterans with state-of-the-art treatment, primary and specialty care. So I'm proud of some of the progress that we've made, but I know that there's a lot more to do, and I want to hear from you about that. And that's why I'm here today. I want to listen to your thoughts and stories, and when I go back to Washington next week, I want to represent your point of view. And I'm here to tell you, I know this, again, I'm being nonpartisan. We know when an administration cares about veterans, and we know when an administration doesn't care about veterans.
Yep.
I am here to tell you this administration does not care about veterans.
That's true.
That Garner VA would have never been built by this administration.
No.
That Garner VA was built by the past administration, but we're going to use it. We're going to take care of our veterans, and we're going to do everything every day. So the last thing I'll share with you before we get to your questions and of course your comments is that my dad is a veteran. He's an Air Force veteran. He's a doctor. He enlisted during the Vietnam era and went to SAC headquarters as a psychiatrist. That was before anybody recognized PTSD. He tells stories. He was not allowed to speak to the officers because they didn't want it on their record that they talked to the psychiatrist. So he can tell some stories about how far we have come in terms of treating everybody. You don't have to be a veteran to need help from time to time. And so he will talk about that, but I'll close with this. The man's 87 years old, and he still insists on going to the VA. Not just for him, because he's a doctor, he can go wherever he wants, but to make sure that the VA is doing a good job for our veterans. So it's his spirit that I bring to my work, and I want to open it up for any comments and questions. I will start with this. If you have a particular case, please, I cannot take that case right here, and I want to give an opportunity for everybody to speak, but we have 3 people here who deal with these cases, and we can refer you to them, and I'd like to introduce them to you. So we have Nadia Alston, please stand up, who has been doing this work for how many years, Nadia? 20?
Close to it.
Close to 20 years. She worked with Congressman David Price. She is absolutely the beating heart of our office. And then we have Daphne Moore. Daphne, please stand up. Daphne loves our veterans. Her father is a veteran. She has been a miracle worker, and she's the person who got those medals. She found those medals and got them to one of our veterans, but in addition to that, she makes sure that people get care. And then Eddie, please stand up. Eddie is new to our office. She worked in DC office, and she also helps people all day, every day. So if you have a personal need with one of the agencies, what I'd like to do is direct you to them either during or after, rather than have you bring that to the whole group, because I want to get to the policy issues and the other things that are going on with you. And I'm going to turn it back to Common Defense to run the show.
Thank you.
All right, now for the main event. We would just ask that you guys, I mean, everybody's going to be, very courteous. You guys are such the sweetest ever. But then also you maybe keep your question kind of brief so we can hit everybody. So what since it's kind of a smaller group, if you want to raise your hand, I'll kind of come along and we'll just kind of maybe popcorn from side to side. Does that sound good?
Hello, good afternoon, Congresswoman, excuse me. My name is Charles McCombs, better known in the neighborhood as Max's dad. Max the Wonder Dog, but not so much a question. Well, I do have some questions policy-wise. I know there's a big push out there for something like the Mecklenburg Declaration to be done by each legislative body in the county and stuff like that. Have you heard of that effort?
So do people know what the Mecklenburg Declaration is? So this was really like a Declaration of Independence. North Carolina was on the front lines of this. What I do know, and what I am advocating for every single day, North Carolina refused to sign the Constitution without a Bill of Rights. Because North Carolina was the original no king's colony. And the most important thing before North Carolina would sign on is that we get the freedoms that we have in all the amendments to the Constitution. So what I've been emphasizing, and this is what I think you're talking about, I'm going to turn it around into this, is that there is no more important amendment to our Constitution than the First Amendment. You know why? It's got a lot of rights in there that people all over the world don't have. The first right, you could pray or not, up to you. We're going to respect your religion. but you can speak out, and we're not gonna punish you unless you're the media right now and it's Donald Trump. Or you're Stephen Colbert. We are going to make sure that we have freedom of the press, which you guys can do. You can have your own blog, you can have your own podcast, whatever. We're gonna make sure that you have the right to assemble, which is what we are doing today and what people do when they take to the streets and protest. But most important, and this goes back to the MACDAP, you have a right to petition the government for redress of your grievances, which means you can talk to me, you can talk to the president, you can talk to your senators, but you can also sue. And in this country, we have those freedoms. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what it brought up for me.
The biggest concern that I have, though, is that I don't think people are grasping the seriousness of what we are facing today.
Yep.
I was an officer in the Army. I worked in special forces. Let me tell you, people, it can go sideways in a heartbeat. I'm very, very concerned that we're going to see full spectrum war. There's civil war in this country. And we don't need that. It scares me to death that we don't even see that.
Well, the most important thing is, when we swear our oath, it's to protect our country against enemies foreign
And
domestic. And my military advisors actually tell me they're more scared about domestic
Absolutely.
sometimes than they're scared about foreign. So thank you for your question, and we'll move on to the next question.
Thank you for coming, Congressman. My name's Eric Thayer. I'm a veteran of the Army and the Air Force Reserve. I was active Army and the Air Force Reserve. My question to you is, what messaging is being given to the National Guards people who are being deployed to our interior cities? What are they being told? What are they being ordered? What are their, what's their chain of command saying, doing, thinking? I mean, that is,
It's scary.
it's terrifying.
Yes.
It's terrifying.
And what you said, I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you, but what you just said about like foreign and domestic, they could turn that on us too. And say we're the domestic problem.
So what we've seen is that, and let's just be very clear about the law. The only people who can order the National Guard are the governors,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so there was a big fight between Trump and Gavin Newsom about what was going on in Los Angeles. And if you saw, the National Guard was in Los Angeles and they didn't have anything to do, right? So we have seen that governors in red states are willing to deploy the National Guard. I have not been in DC since the National Guard has been there. What I have heard is that the National Guard actually isn't in the areas where there's serious crime in DC. They're in tourist areas. They're like making it so that the restaurants can't earn money. I mean, we'll see when I get there. I will say this about the National Guard because I got elected right before January 6th. I was real glad they were there after January 6th. They knew what they were there for. I trust their training. I will tell you that our governor, Josh Stein, was kind of smart about all this. He said, I need the National Guard on the Outer Banks because of Hurricane Aaron. I need the National Guard in Western North Carolina to deal with Helene. And so I'm hoping that the combination of seeing the National Guard not, being well deployed in places and having the National Guard, honor their oath and not do things that are wrong. We have not heard that the National Guard has done anything to civilians. They've actually stood back because they know their mission. They're soldiers. They know who they swear an oath to, and it isn't Donald Trump. And so what I'm hoping is that they will model the right behavior, and then our governors, who are ultimately in charge of their deployments, will be smarter about where they deploy. I mean, if you're the governor of a red state, you send your National Guard to Washington DC in a hurricane, like the Florida National Guard, what are they gonna do if they have a hurricane? What are they gonna do? They need their National Guard doing what the National Guard needs to do. And I know I've talked too long, but I will say this. The National Guard during Hurricane Helene in North Carolina did extraordinary work. And do you know what they told me? The federal government has not compensated them for it like they are supposed to.
Not surprised.
So I am going west this week to talk to people about how the federal government has failed them. Now, when we had a different president, we said we were gonna send $9 billion. Not getting it. So I thank you for your question, but I will say that I trust the soldiers more than I trust the people who deploy them. Okay, we got some more questions?
Anyone on the side of the room have a question?
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. My name is Ellsworth. I'm a veteran service officer from Lee County. Retired after 24 years in the Army as a paratrooper. And I'm familiar with, most people call it PSYOPs, but we call it MISOC. And they try to recruit me over and over again. I'm familiar with what they do. And it just seems like a lot of people in this last election have voted on misinformation. And it irritates me because I know certain things going on behind the scenes are like, okay, you guys control the narrative, now you control the media, you're scaring people into not saying certain things, and it just reminds me of like what I read in a history book about pre-Nazi Germany.
Yep.
So what is being done to kind of reel this in and stuff and handle the misinformation and get the right information out there? I mean, this tonight, for example, is great because we're getting information that the media, of course, isn't telling us. But there's not enough of these going on, in my opinion. But what's really being done behind the scenes to reel that in?
So what's being done behind the scenes is trying to get more information out. And I'll go back to that First Amendment. The thing about the First Amendment is we don't shut down false information. It's what we call the marketplace of ideas. And so some people buy some stuff that's not good, but it is our responsibility to get more information out and make it more accessible, and make it accessible where people are. And I think what we're learning, and I'm not here to say it's been done because we need your help doing it. We've assumed because the legacy media was trusted that people will get their information there, but that's not where people get their information. And it's not who they trust. They trust people they know. They unfortunately sometimes, and I gave a speech last week and people thought it was so funny, but they trust like people who are putting makeup on and talking to them. I'm like, okay. But we need to, and I have nothing against people who put makeup on, but that's not where I'm gonna get my news, right? I mean, I might get good makeup advice, which would be good, I might need it. But what we need is we need to reach people where they get their news. And that is, yes, on elected officials like myself, but the other thing that we've learned is people don't want to hear from elected officials. They want to hear from people who they know and trust, or people who they think are interesting or cool or whatever. So it's on all of us to do that communicating. It's on all of us. I mean, I go on podcasts that have nothing to do with, I went on a food podcast, I went on a, walking around the Capitol explaining how a bill becomes a law podcast. I'll do anything. But what we're learning is people don't want to just hear from politicians. They want to hear from each other. from their neighbors, from their church members, they really want to do that. And that means we are all responsible for communicating the truth. Because the only thing that's going to bring down the lies is having people stand up. It is not silence. Silence feeds into the lies. Fear feeds into the lies. So it is up to all of us, and believe me, I'm doing a lot of communicating in a whole lot of ways that are not necessarily in my wheelhouse, but I'm there. You know, what did I do? Navy was with me, and I was doing a little dance on night out. I'm doing everything. But it's up to all of us to do it, and it's up to you. And if you see something, say something. See something, say something, because that emboldens other people. So.
Hi, did anyone have any questions over here?
Thanks. Hi, Congresswoman Upstart. Just so we got a few things in common. My dad, veteran.
Tell me your name.
My name is Joe Cicero. I live in Wake County. And as a matter of fact, he served World War II, Battle of Bulge.
Oh, wow.
He took a bullet from the Nazis to help stop the genocide that was happening in World War II. And he's just turned 100 years old.
Wow.
The Italian blood. But I want to thank you and your dad for your service. Your dad served in the military, and your service in the snake bit of Washington, D.C. politics. So I know that as a former campaign manager, I know that it's a very tough job. So the reason that I wanted to ask you about something is that I work for Peace Action. Now, Peace Action is the nation's largest anti-nuclear weapons group, over 60 years old. We've helped to eliminate over 85% of the world's nuclear weapons. And so right now we have multiple nations involved in warfare with nuclear weapons: the United States, Russia, Israel, right? And there's a lot of warfare going on. So my question is, why is the U.S. government supporting this genocide in Gaza? Obviously, I don't have to say where it is.
It is not a genocide.
And it's, as a Democratic Party, there's about 90% of people are against what's going on. Okay? And yet we have about 80% of Congress that votes for supporting the genocide. Okay? Last year Congress passed $95 billion divided up between a couple of different countries, including Israel. I think it was $25 billion, and that helped to pay for over 50,000 bombs that were given, not including machine guns that we handed out to people on the West Bank. And we've got a number of bills to stop this genocide. You know, obviously Bernie Sanders is leading in the Senate. We have Congresswoman Jaya Paul in the House.
And I signed on to her resolution.
Which resolution?
Her Gaza resolution. She has a Gaza resolution about stopping the violence and also making sure people get food.
Right. And so, great. That's great. On one hand, out of the $95 billion that got passed, about 25, I think, went to Israel. About $1 billion supposedly went to Gaza humanitarian aid.
Correct.
Right. And yet, I'm not sure that food ever got there.
It did.
Now, I think we gave it to Israel to administer, and that the same bill actually outlawed the United Nations UNRWA that distributes food, right? And
That's a lot.
I think that bill specified that we would give that money to USAID to help get food.
And then Trump did away with USAID.
Exactly. So Trump did that. But you know, when Joe Biden was asking Netanyahu not to bomb Rafah, I'm getting confused on the cities, and he threatened, he paused the 2,000-pound bombs that we were shipping to them. And then our U.S. Senator called Joe Biden a terrorist for doing that. But that was the only thing apparently that worked, you know, that even got their attention, right? So now, even though Congress has passed all these weapons, there's been certain resolutions in the Senate and the House to undo that, okay, joint resolutions of disapproval. And so, and there's resolutions right this minute, such as, not resolutions, I'm sorry, bills. So a resolution sending a letter or making a statement that you're against starvation is different than
I'm more than happy to address this because I address it all the time,
Right,
if you want me to.
Here's the question. The question is, will you be a co-sponsor and vote for, I need some water.
You haven't been talking so long, you wouldn't be needing it.
Will you be a co-sponsor and vote for the ban the bombs legislation by Congresswoman Ramirez that would help stop these weapons to Israel?
So let me put all of this in context. I want to be very, very clear that I have been very open, honest, and vocal about my opposition to how Israel has dealt with the situation in Gaza after it was attacked by Hamas. So we have to recognize Hamas started this.
Yes.
But Benjamin Netanyahu has used the situation to his own personal advantage, and people in Gaza have suffered because of it. Hamas has also used it to its personal advantage, and people in Gaza have suffered for it. So I have signed on to several resolutions and supported Congresswoman Jayapal in making sure that people in Gaza are not persecuted and that they get their food. I cannot, and the United States clearly cannot stop Israel from doing what Israel is doing, which the international community has condemned. However, I can take a stand, sign on to all of these things. The problem that we have right now is that while the Biden administration, as imperfect as it might have been, was trying to have a ceasefire, get the food there, and I will tell you that $1 billion of humanitarian aid, even though it didn't get there in the way we wanted it, it was the first time in the history of the United States that humanitarian aid was supposed to go to Palestinians. I got to vote for that. And the Democrats got Mike Johnson to put that on the floor of the House of Representatives, and we voted for it. Did Israel screw it up? Yes. But we did it for the very first time, and I am proud of that vote. Now, I will also tell you that when it comes time to provide military assistance to Israel, frequently that happens right after Iran attacks it. And so then you're telling Congress to say, we're not going to provide money for the Iron Dome. Even AOC votes for the Iron Dome. And so it is a complicated, horrible situation. But I have made it very clear that I believe Benjamin Netanyahu has done irreparable harm, not just to the people in Gaza, but to peace in the Middle East. And he's done it only for his own personal gain. But what we need to have in the Middle East, and I don't know when we're going to have it, is rational people coming to the table. And the main thing that I've been supporting, and this is something that came to me from our community. I meet with every group that wants to meet with me. I meet with the people who hate the Palestinians. I meet with the people who hate Israel. The people who have been the most constructive have been Arab Americans who want the Arab countries to be in charge of the resolution.
Yes.
And be in charge of the food distribution and get it out of the hands. Folks in Gaza don't want the United States doing the food. They don't trust us.
And they shouldn't.
They want Egypt doing it. They want Jordan doing it. And the United States has messed up a lot of things in the Middle East, including the Iraqi war. How many Iraqi war veterans are here? The United States messed that up. I went to Jordan, to camps where Iraqis were being held, and with other members of legislatures, and people were like, oh, aren't you happy that we liberated you? And they're like, no, we're here in Jordan. You messed up our lives. So I think what we need to do is step back rather than claim we're going to be the saviors. And let the people who really know what's going on the ground do it. Give them the money to do it. I'll give them $1 billion again. I'll give them more than $1 billion. So that's what we have to do. And so I want you to know I'm taking this very seriously. I'm talking to all people concerned, but I do not believe that the United States is going to solve this. And I'll leave you with this one other thing. Last summer I went to Ireland, in Northern Ireland, and a lot of people wanted to talk to people in Northern Ireland because they thought, oh, well, the troubles have been solved in Northern Ireland. Maybe the Middle East can learn from this. Oh no, people were throwing bombs over the peace wall.
Ooh.
And what we heard in Northern Ireland, and this is sad, but it's true, that you have to have peace for 3 generations before the hate and the violence will not come back again. And that they're still dealing with it in Northern Ireland. So I don't think any one person or one administration is going to be able to do this. But I think the most important thing is to have the people who are on the ground and not think we're the big saviors of the world, because we're not trusted. We messed up a whole bunch of things in the Middle East. It's not like we're the ones who are going to solve the problems. But we need to support the people who live there so that all people in the Middle East can live with dignity, respect, food, and security. All people. And I am committed to that. So, may not have answered your question, but that's what I'm committed to. And I know that was a long answer. I think we have time for maybe 2 more questions, but then I want to make sure that if anybody has, a case or something, that they can go talk to my staff. Yes, ma'am.
Hi,
Hi, tell me your name.
I am Carol Olinger with Action NC. We've met with you before, talked to you in the halls of Congress. I first want to say thank you for meeting people where they are. You said, oh, I'm in places that I'm at the food place, I'm at all these and you're dancing. That is awesome. Meeting people where they are, they'll get a chance to get a question because they might not come to forums like this. They might not come to a town hall. So I just think that's amazing. Thank you for doing that. And then my question is more about North Carolina. Have you heard of PFAS?
Yes. I've been doing work on PFAS.
Can you make it so our military families like mine, I'm a military brat, I'm married into a military, my dad is in the military, my mom was in the military, my son is in the military, but we live here. I worked in a school that was contaminated with PFAS. I live in a neighborhood that's contaminated with PFAS. PFAS is in the Cape Fear River.
100%.
What can you do about that? Can you add something to the floor? Can you make it so our military families that have moved away and they don't know why they're having a thyroid issue or a kidney problem and all the other terrible things that are happening because of the polluted water? So it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, everybody drinks water. My last comment on that is, if I choose to smoke cigarettes, and I do, I wouldn't give a cigarette to my baby But I would make a bottle using water for the baby.
Yeah.
The water affects everybody, and I don't think people are realizing that it's affecting us. What's PFAS? It's in the water.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for that question. I'm going to give another too long answer, but I think it's a hopeful answer. So for those of you who don't know what PFAS is, these are what are called forever chemicals. So these are chemicals, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, they're in Teflon pans. You know, they are in everything. They're in makeup, they're in food, and they've been identified. Now, I will tell you that when Michael Regan from North Carolina was the head of the EPA, he did more to identify these chemicals and move toward banning them than anybody ever has. Of course, the Trump administration has gone backward on this. But I do want you to know that looking for solutions has been very bipartisan in North Carolina. And I like to highlight when things are bipartisan, just like the Camp Lejeune Justice Act. Congressman Hudson, who has represented Fayetteville and Fort Bragg, Congressman Rouser, who represents Wilmington, and I, we are really the three people from North Carolina who have worked to not just identify PFAS, but get funding to clean it up. And if you have never been, not everybody likes going to water and sewer plants, but I kind of do. For a little while, I was a lawyer who got money for water and sewer plants, so I've been to a lot of them. Wilmington, North Carolina has the state-of-the-art PFAS removal system for the whole country.
Through Cape for River Ross?
Through the Cape, because they had to do it. Now, people who are still on well water are not getting the benefit of it. But because Wilmington invested in this PFAS extraction, I went and toured the facility. You can tour it. It's amazing. But what happened was, it's expensive. So they passed the cost, because the way that you pay for water and sewer, of course, is to pay your water bill, right? It's not like some money falls from heaven and goes to pay for this. So they have had to jack up the rates. And so what Congressman Rouser and Congressman Hudson and I have done is we want that money that goes to water and sewer systems to also reimburse a water and sewer system that has spent their own money to clean up the water. Because a lot of the new legislation is only for future things. Well, Wilmington did the right thing. And the people who get that water shouldn't have to pay for it. So we are continuing to work on it. The unfortunate thing and the true thing, back to my friend over here who wants truth, because we all want truth, is that the Trump administration is reversing a lot of the really good regulations that our North Carolinian, Michael Regan, got into place. But what they can't do is take away the excellent water system in Wilmington, North Carolina. And so we need to replicate that and create more incentives for those kinds of water systems wherever they might be around the United States. And so that is what I'm committed to. And again, not a Democratic or Republican issue. I am doing this with Congressman Rouser, who represents Wilmington, and with Congressman Hudson. So I hope that answers your question. We have time for one more question, back here, in the back. Here, okay. One more, and then we're gonna wrap. Tell me your name.
Mike Baylor, retired Army. A poll was conducted by Military Times in between June 13th and June 30th, 2025. And active duty service members, 818, were surveyed about obeying unlawful orders. 9% stated that they would obey any order out of the 818. 25% of the respondents wrote about their duty to disobey orders that were obviously wrong, obviously criminal, or obviously unconstitutional. Only 25%. Another 8% spoke of immoral orders. One respondent wrote that orders that clearly break international law, and they mostly referred to international law as opposed to U.S. law because they felt the president would change U.S. law to make it.
Can't do it without Congress.
He'll sure try.
He's been doing a lot without Congress, though, hasn't he?
Yep.
We're pushing back.
But I mean, this is scary to me in terms of the way the military's replaced senior officials, generals on down, and almost all the JAG officers from the 4 services have been replaced. So I mean, a service member is between a brick and a hard place when given an order. Because they can be court-martialed for not obeying a lawful order, and they can be court-martialed for obeying an unlawful order. So, and their ability to distinguish between the two is extremely grave, especially when dealing with armed weapons and patrolling U.S. city streets. I'm scared shitless, to be frank, that something is going to really happen and a service member is going to be involved and innocent civilians may be at the end. But I would strongly encourage people to look at military times and review this study.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and I hadn't heard about that, so we're gonna look it up too. I couldn't agree with you more, but I'll leave you with this because it's a hopeful thing. 25% is a healthy minority. And a lot of people who say that they would obey won't if somebody leads them in the right direction. And so we need, if we've got 25%, if we've got 2%, when you stand up and you do the right thing and you lead other people, they will follow and they'll feel good about it. And so the most important thing is that we do not capitulate. We do not give up our voice. We do not give up our rights. That we speak up, we act, and we lead, and people will follow because they are craving leadership right now. So thank you for sharing that. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here tonight. I want to thank you for your service. I want to thank you for being patriots, because a true patriot is somebody who's willing to be honest when things are not going right. And we're all going to have to be patriots for a little while before we get this country back. So thank you so, so much. And I'll let Congress defense say a few words.
Thank you so much for your help. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for leaving us on a hopeful note. In my haste, when we were introducing all the VSOs, I did forget to introduce Scott Peoples with Veterans for Responsible Leadership. So I'm going to bring you up here in a second, Scott, to tell us about all of your fun stuff. But to echo what Congresswoman Ross said,